afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sports. Is this thing on? Are we on? We on? It's Friday. It is. I'm glad it's Friday. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to put the Illinois basketball season to rest today. It's been a long one. And we'll check our tournament brackets. And labor union says that Northwestern football players can unionize. This is going to change the scope of college sports if it goes all the way through. Also, Baltimore Ravens, Ray Rice, he was indicted on assault charges. Of course, he knocked his wife out in the elevator.
Girlfriend.
Oh, girlfriend. Yeah, girlfriend. Yeah. Let me see. 76ers, they lose 26 straight basketball games. That ties an NBA record. Also, Jared Allen to the Bears. Julius Peppers to the Packers. What do they say about trading players in your own division? It can come back to bite you. I'm Sergeant Rock. That's Mike Cox. Joe Stovall will be here shortly.
He's actually out in the hallway.
Is he?
Yeah, he's slacking.
Yeah. We got all that and more on this edition of Talking Sports. You be sure and stay tuned.
Welcome back to Musical Chairs on UPTV Channel 6.
That's what we do.
I won. I got the captain's chair. Mike was a little slow in getting back in his chair. You know.
No, that's your chair.
That's your chair.
I can't. There's no way I can fill that chair. You are Joe Stovall after all.
When you say fill that chair, there's
you want.
there's several ways I can envision filling this chair.
You know when he sit down, he spreads.
And that's it. Take it any way you want. You are at that age now.
Now we're going to go with the age thing.
Yeah, I know.
You brought your little ducky in, or Sergeant did, or something. Here, let's set that right up there so you can see it.
Oh, hey. So what you're saying is that when I go down in the tub, this is the last thing they find.
It's probably no, heck no. Go down in the tub.
You know, when I'm just down goes Stovall. Now see, you got a different image again.
Joe's the only one you can fill a tub with a quarter of water. He get in there, it's full.
Wow. Is that from the sugar high you're having today?
Oh, speaking of sugar high, Mom brought in some. Check it out, y'all.
You got to show that to the camera.
Oh yeah, you definitely got to show that.
After icing, Mom brought in some homemade cinnamon rolls.
Excuse me, would you like some rolls with that glaze?
A little bit of pastry with that sugar.
So what? So you talking about my mama's cinnamon rolls?
See,
No,
once again, you taking it the wrong way.
They look absolutely delicious.
They do. See, now you done got up and went and got the bat.
Right.
On TV.
Don't talk about my mama's cinnamon rolls.
I'm not talking about your mama for cinnamon rolls. I'm just saying.
What?
They look delicious, as Mike concurred earlier.
I hadn't even seen them yet, and I was begging for something.
I would like for you to show the viewing audience your milk
Container.
Please let everybody out there in TV land see how you carry milk. Now, is that FDA approved?
Oh, it's fresh from the cow, brother.
So you milked that yourself, huh?
You
Just popped it right on, and
you got to put between your two fingers and you pull like
I'm not even going to ask how he knows that.
I was gonna. You know what? There are so many different. Let's get into sports, because when you
You
say
ain't never milked a cow before? You ever never seen a cow being milked?
that was
Come
prom.
on, I know you country.
That was prom 1980.
I know you country. You seen a cow being milked.
He turns and says that to the only white guy in the room.
Right. You know, I know you seen it. You know, where you grow up.
I know you country.
Like he lived in a barn. That's the way you just implied it.
But it is.
I didn't grow up in Indiana.
We got Carletta behind the lens today. Now, Carletta's seen a cow milk before.
And she got the right shirt on, too. You see what she got on. You know.
She looking for Jake.
Is that what it is? She need to call him at 3 in the morning. Right now, Jake's asleep.
Yeah.
He's knocked out.
All right, that's enough foolery.
Foolery on TV. Oh,
We
Tennessee.
She won't do that at 10
I told you she country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there you go.
she's seen a cow milk.
I know it. Tell me how cow milk, Carletta. I got up here. Well,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
you go out there with a bucket every morning,
Say, get the supply.
pull Betsy up, sit down on a stool.
So I can't. I'm lactose intolerant. So
Go ahead, we got some water out there for you. Be all right.
milk make me.
Got some juice boxes.
I forgot. After you get up from your nap, you can go to Sarge's daycare and have juice boxes and cinnamon rolls.
I mean, you gotta have everything, Joe.
I see. Speaking of everything, we digress.
Let's talk sports.
Talk sports.
Let's put this Illinois basketball team to rest.
Okay.
I have but one thing to say, and then you and Mike could gibber and jabber and talk
Educate.
and until you get tired of it. I just have one thing to say. Who told that boy to take that shot?
And when you say that boy, you're referring to Tracy Abrams, and you're referring to the Clemson game on Sunday.
Correct.
I think that play kind of was indicative of the season. As they would say, it's a microcosm. You had the ball in the hands of your leading scorer, Ravonte Rice, but because Clemson did such a good job in forcing him
To
give
give
the
up
ball,
the ball up.
right, you had to go to your second option.
Well, I think that wasn't it John Eakey on his left instead of.
Scoot up.
I said, wasn't it John Eakey on his left instead of Tracy? I'm not
I'm
really a good
thinking
three-point shooter.
anybody but Trace.
Yeah, I mean historically.
I would have kept the ball and just threw it one and hope I got fouled.
Well, yeah, because all you needed was a bucket. It didn't
Exactly.
have to be a three-pointer.
Exactly.
So, and I think Tracy lined that up from beyond the NBA three-point line.
I think he lined it up beyond the MTV Rock and Jock 50-point line.
I'm pretty sure he made up his mind he was going to take the shot.
Well,
And I think he could have even took a couple more dribbles before he threw it up.
you know, the old saying, hindsight is 20/20, but that's why I said the play is a microcosm of the season.
Yeah.
Because we second-guessed the team the entire year when they went on an 8-game losing streak, and then when they win 5 out of 7, you see the ebbs and flows, and that play is exactly what we're talking about. You can look at it and say he coulda, shoulda, woulda. And this year's season was a shoulda, coulda, woulda. They start off 13-2. You get in the Big Ten. You win your first 2 games in the Big Ten, December and early in January, and then you don't win another one until February. And then you change your lineup like you requested, and then the lineup changes. Then you get into the Big Ten tournament, and you get a chance to beat the number 1 team, which is Michigan. And he should have shot a layup. He should have shot a bank shot, but he didn't, and they lost.
Look, the fact is a matter of opinion.
You're welcome.
Been practicing it all day.
Yeah, I've been waiting to use it. In my opinion, it's fact.
Right. And the fact is,
I got that from Cox.
From a farmer.
from a Farmer Fred.
Yeah, from earlier this morning.
Right.
But I'm thinking Illinois could have won that ball game if only they could have got drive to the basket. If nothing else, get a foul. It was enough. I mean, surely you don't want to leave the game in the hands of the official, but there was enough time on the clock out there. They would have called a foul.
But
Went to the field line.
but would they have called a foul? Because you hear everybody say, you know, don't leave it in the hands of the official. Let the players make the play. Let the players decide the game. And you know, some of the fouls they were calling, it's like, where are you playing? Because you certainly aren't playing in Big Ten country. Because that's ticky tack. That's little stuff. So, I mean, I think you would have had to. Ravonte keeps the ball, drives the lane. Would they have called the foul on a defensive player? Or were they calling on him for initiating the contact? Because there were some, you know, iffy offensive fouls called on both teams throughout the game. So I don't know, but you're right. There was a second and a half when the shot went up left or something like that, because there was time for rebound.
It was actually 3 seconds when he took the shot,
Well,
because when the ball went out of bounds, it was 1.7
right.
left
Right,
on
right,
the
right.
clock. Now, this goes to what I said about the microcosm of the season. We're focused on the last play, but the fact remains, if they don't shoot 3 for 21 from the 3-point line, if they go 4 for 21, they
They
win the
would,
game.
yeah.
So now you see what I mean by the shoulda, woulda, couldas. The number of 3-point shots they missed. They missed 18 3-point shots. And it wasn't like they were contested or, Clemson just played this miraculous, in-your-face, man-to-man defense. It was just the fact shots just weren't going down. And that's what takes you to this last play. And that's the reason why now, we can either say, hey, get it to Iki on the left, or he should have put it on the floor, or he should have. And I keep going back to that's the reason why this game it was indicative
Well, Iki,
of the entire season.
He only made what, two, three?
He made three.
He made three, but those were three late in the game, though.
And that was what got them back into the game
This is
and
true.
potentially gave them the chance to win the game.
This is true.
Yeah.
But take the chance on throwing it out there to him again and let him try and make another one.
But here's the
Why
thing. If you throw it to him and he misses, what's the first thing we're all going to say?
Why'd you throw it to
Why
Iki?
did they Iki? He should have kept the ball and taken it to the hoop. And,
Didn't I just say that?
no, you didn't say that.
I said take the chance of throwing it out there.
Right, and what I'm saying is that anything that would have happened that would have failed would have been the old jab in the ribs for this team. I'll give you an example. Let me go to the game itself, and then let's go back to the Michigan game. Remember, Illinois had 2 possessions in the Michigan game at the end. One, they got a real bad shot, and the last one, Tracy misses the floater.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, everybody criticized John Gross for not using
the
timeout.
But he called one this time.
Called 2.
Yeah.
So now he has none at the end of the game. And what was the first thing people said? That was the worst clock management. It's all about winning or losing. It's not about what you do. It's what you do when it counts. And I think that's the reason why I keep going back to this shoulda, woulda, coulda. This has been probably the most second-guessed season. Not team, but season that you've probably seen in a long time around here, because when they had the 8-game losing streak, what did you say they should do?
Change the lineup.
Change the lineup. They should play the freshmen. Just play the freshmen.
Play the freshmen.
They stuck a couple freshmen in there. Things started turning around for
Started
them.
winning fruit.
They won 5. I think it was 5 out of 7. And
Something like that,
if you try to look at it, if you try to look at your container half full of milk,
yeah. Lukewarm.
lukewarm, is that pasteurized?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I just want to be sure. Hate for you to
I understand.
bubble up later on,
I'm sure.
or as you said, spread in your chair.
Anyway.
You look at things on this team and you say, if and only if. But I think as a coach, looking at it from John Gross's perspective, I think this was more of a Dr. Jekyll team this year, and he was more of a scientist experimenting with so many different things.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Right. And he created a semi-monster. Let's now look at what has happened. They lost in NIT, but they were on the road because of the renovations at State Farm Center.
Correct.
Do you think that if they play Boston University at home and then play Clemson at home because they were the higher seed, you think they advance in those games? Probably so. I don't think you shoot 3 for 21 at the State Farm Center
Well, yeah.
against Clemson, and you're not playing on Sunday at 11 in the morning.
10.
Well, 10 our time, but 11 their time. I think a lot of dynamics change. So that's why I say there's a lot of stuff you look at on this, and you can point fingers. And the last second shot Tracy took wasn't a good shot. It's obvious. Shot an air ball. But next year, you bring back that entire squad in terms of your starting 5 at the end of the year. They're all back. All your freshmen now become sophomores. Your 3 transfers, Crosby, Starks, and Paul. I think was that a folk band back in the 70s?
Yeah.
They will be there. So there's some.
I'm not sure if the same 5 will be starting next season.
You don't think the same 5 will be starting next season? What have you seen from the other guys that either on the bench or the transfers or the freshmen?
Well, yeah.
Who's not going to start?
Right. Who would be the guy you'd pull out?
Abel.
So he'll start.
He'll start.
He'll start. Gross loves him.
All right.
Well, he should.
Well, he does.
Well, he shouldn't. He needs marriage counseling.
I'm not saying he shouldn't
needs
love him,
center
but
roles.
he should
Right.
start, is what I'm saying.
Okay. And who would you start in his place?
Well, I'm not familiar with it.
Cosby or Starks, or your only other two guards, or Tate.
Start.
Well, but I think what's going to happen, because Gross does like Tracy Abrams so much, is he'll probably start, but he won't play the minutes he played this year.
Right. Because now you're going to have, as Mike just mentioned, with Starks and Crosby coming in, the dynamics change. Number one, you bring in Starks, who's a 5'9", one of them little water bug type guards who can shoot the three. He'll change tempo. Crosby was one of the he was a double-digit scorer when he was at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He's about 40% proficient from the three-point line, so you're going to have a good three-point shooter there. But wait a minute, you're putting your hands up like, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, what's wrong?
They haven't played a game for the University of Illinois. So this is all speculation and conjecture. Your goal right now is to take the devil you know, not the one you don't. And Tracy Abrams, for all the ill will that you may have for him, he's played 3 years
He'll be a
as a
senior
starter.
this year, yeah.
He was the MVP his freshman year. I mean, he ain't chopped liver. Now, has he made a lot of mistakes this year? You know, but you got to remember why those mistakes were made.
He looking at the rear view mirror.
I don't think he was looking in the rearview mirror. I think what it was that, as I told you earlier, chemistry was the biggest issue with this team throughout the season. And it finally started working at the end. Now you go into 14-15, I don't think you upset that chemistry by bringing a transfer in and taking one of your 3-year starters and putting them on the bench.
Then you just say it's about winning.
Yeah, and I think
It's
that's
always about winning.
Then you put it in a winning combination.
well, you don't know that yet.
Thank you.
I mean,
Mike.
you have what? You have what? 5, 6 preseason exposition games, preseason games, whatever you call them. You got practices leading up until don't they have like summer practice or something like that? See, you got all that, to work out them bugs.
But that's not working out all them bugs is all good, and you get a general idea of what you can expect. But that's not playing Michigan or Michigan State. That's at a different level. I think what's going to happen is and I could be completely wrong, but I think you'll see, depending upon how well they play and whether or not they are winning, you're either going to see what you saw this year, where he cuts back some people or takes them out of the lineup like he did Bertrand and Ike, or you're going to see Abrams and whoever getting their playing time, I would guess, somewhere cut in half.
Right. You're going to see, and because it's with the addition of those 3 players, your improvement of the other freshmen that are on the bench, and then other freshmen recruits that are coming in, you'll see a reduction in time for a lot of guys just due to the fact that you're going to have multiple athletes that you'll be able to plug in for different types of sets. But the base foundation of next year's team, I think you saw that at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see Abrams and Rice, Hill, Nunn, and Igwu. Because let's go through each player. Rice is going to be arguably your leading scorer returning next year and your leader of the team. He'll be a senior leader. Igwu, another senior. You know, this conversation we had this year about being young, not next year, because you're going to have Abrams a senior, Rice a senior, Igwu a senior, and then you'll have 2 sophomores who'll be playing, and then we just mentioned Starks and Crosby, 2 senior guards coming off the bench. Total dynamics change in terms of that. So,
Well, and Paul will be a sophomore,
right,
and hopefully this year that he's had to sit out, he did a Ramonte Rice and got
bigger, faster, stronger.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, Gross likes to go 10 deep.
Right.
So people are going to play. So,
Now, the one question I would have going into next year, for the past couple of years, you've had a average to above average 3-point shooter, whether it was Ike this year or Tyler Griffey in the past. You don't have that with the returning players next year. You potentially have that with a Michael Finke coming in next year. The question will then be, as a freshman, do you rely on that? Will he be ready to play? Is he physically prepared for the rigors of Division I basketball? Goes to your point about these other guys. It's all conjecture and speculation.
Now it's going to take a year or 2 for Fink.
I was going to say, I think it'd be a wise, and I don't know, but just on the surface, I think it'd be smart if you maybe even redshirt it next year.
I would agree with that. The issue would be, going to Sarge's point, what happens in summer ball. Because a lot of times those decisions about, where guys play are based on that. The other thing, or the final thing I look at in terms of the team, who stays. Because the reason why I say who stays, I look at a guy like Austin Colbert, who didn't get really that much playing time this year. You got Finke coming in. You got LaRon Black, who LaRon Black should get immediate playing time based on all of the credentials he'll be bringing in. You then look at a Maverick Morgan. Maverick Morgan was Igwu's basically his backup this year. How much improvement are you going to see from him going from his freshman to his sophomore year? Is he going to be more vital on the offensive end of the floor? Because if you think about it, Morgan really was more of a stopgap guy. When Igwu would go out with his fouls, that's it. He really didn't expect anything out of him on the offensive end. And when you look at it from that standpoint, what happens there? Darius Paul. Now that Darius Paul comes in, does that reduce Maverick Morgan and Colbert's time? And if that happens, do they leave and say, you know what? Because today, 40% of your Division I players, basketball players, at some time or another, go into this transfer mode where they're like, if I'm not getting opportunity, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah. Everybody wants to play. Nobody likes to ride the bench.
Yeah, but there's only 5 spots.
Yeah.
So I think, whenever you would see Colbert in a timeout or whatever, you see him in, a clip on TV at practice, he always seemed happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily, I would be surprised if he transferred, one. And two, with Maverick Morgan, and I know some people don't like him, but Dan Dockage said he's going to turn out to be a really solid Big Ten player because he's known the kid forever.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs to pack on some weight and some strength.
Right.
Darius Paul, who knows? I mean, if I just hope everybody doesn't expect Brandon Paul at 6'9" or whatever he is, 6'8", whatever he is,
right,
and just let him. He's got the back to the basket skills that Nana doesn't have.
Right.
And again, Gross will go 10 deep and not think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And you've got either Crosby or Starks, whoever it was that was shooting 40% from the 3-point line, wherever he was at. Don't know how many shots he took, but if he's in the game, you got to account for him, like folks got to do with Nick Stauskas out of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I just go back to what I said the last time I was here about if I had asked anybody 6 months ago, are they going to win 20 games? Everybody would have thought I was crazy, and they did.
Right.
So it should be interesting next year, to say the least.
And with that being said, time to get this whole season done. Moment of silence.
Just like we only knew him just today.
It was I'm going to say dismal season. They didn't win 20 games until the postseason.
It's still 20 games. And who would have thought they'd be in the postseason?
Wait a minute. He going to get a shot in no matter. If they went 37-2, 37. If they'd won 38,
Yeah, well,
40-0.
right.
They would have won 41.
Fire Gross.
I like Gross. He's cool. But it's time to give this basketball season the WBCP
UPTV.
moment of silence. Hey, man, that season over with. Woo, I'm so glad. Let's check our brackets. You bring your brackets with you?
My bracket blew up last weekend.
I use mine for a coaster.
And if it wasn't blowing up last weekend, it blew up last night.
I did 4. Can you take the 4 and put them together? If I put all 4 of my brackets together,
Move them around.
You're good, right?
call Warren Buffett right now. Cut me a check.
All right, they're in the Sweet 16, or what is there, 12 now, I guess. Something like that. Anyway, last night, Florida beat UCLA 79-68. Dayton still hanging in there.
Bracket
And
buster.
I don't know why they calling them a Cinderella team.
Because they're a mid-major.
And they're a double-digit seed.
Yeah.
That's
What are
really
they,
the
11?
Yeah, they're
No.
a 10th seed.
Okay.
10 or 11 seed. Yeah.
They beat I think they're 11 seed. Sanford was 10 seed.
Mhm.
They beat Sanford 82-72. Arizona. Now this game was a lot closer than the score indicates. Arizona beat San Diego State 70-64, and Baylor lost to Wisconsin 69-52. And Wisconsin just manhandled Baylor.
And that's surprising.
Wisconsin beat Baylor like they just picked them up by the heels and just slung them around the basketball court.
Can I sit here and gloat for about 30 seconds about Wisconsin?
Yeah, but we're not in the Final Four weekend, so go ahead.
Exactly.
I said in January they potentially were a Final Four team.
No. You said they are a Final Four team.
They're in the Elite Eight.
That ain't Final Four.
It's like being at the Final Four's house on their porch.
But you ain't in the front door yet.
Oh, God. Boy,
Come on, Joseph.
The literal statements that I just get picked and prodded, you know.
Well, there's a big difference between they are a Final Four team and they probably might be.
One game is what we're talking about right now.
Sorry, what's one
Exactly.
game matter?
It's a whole lot.
One game we're talking about.
Win or go
Out
home.
of 329 Division I basketball teams, I say in January, I pick one team, and now I'm getting scrutinized like you guys are the SEC, and I'm Michael Milken or somebody with junk bonds or something like that.
Well, be there.
I'm just going to say it right here. I said it in January, and I'm sticking with it in March. They're a Final Four team. It was not surprising what they did to Baylor. They have, if you look at this team that Wisconsin has, look at every position on the floor. You got the sixth man of the year, who's a freshman, in Nigel Hayes. Sam Decker, who is a athletic three that can attack the glass and shoot the mid-range. Ben Bruss can knock down threes with the best of anybody. Kaminsky
Went nuts.
on the
That's nice.
post let Baylor find he let Baylor know what a Big Ten center how he plays.
Oh, he embarrassed them, folks.
Yes.
He embarrassed them.
But the final thing that the guy who doesn't get any credit for all of this is Bo Ryan. Bo Ryan has done a masterful job of coaching that team, because you think about the individual pieces. I didn't even mention Trayvon Jackson,
Yeah.
left hand point guard, Jimmy Jackson's son, heck of a ball player. He's the guy that kind of stirs the drink for this whole deal. And like, you watched Bo Ryan on the sidelines last night. What kind of emotion did he show during the game?
None that I saw.
Exactly. Because
He was basically doing a Phil Jackson.
he was like this the whole time.
Yeah, for the most part.
Because he knows what the Big Ten regular season and tournament does. It preps you better, I can argue, better than any other conference about tournament play.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I have noticed on what's happened, everybody talks about officiating. Remember early in the year, everybody's complaining because that freedom of movement call,
Right.
guy extends his hand, whistle blows instantly. Ain't happening, is it? And when that doesn't happen, teams from the Big Ten who are accustomed to playing that physical style man-to-man defense step through the tournament. They're on the porch. They get ready to go through the front door.
So I guess what you're alluding to is the fact that the officials are not really calling that, because there is some hand checking going on.
There's some hand checking. The other thing is, what I'm enjoying is the no calls when guys are getting near the basket and defenders are going vertical.
Yeah.
It used to be you got to the basket, if there was any contact,
Automatic foul.
let's blow the whistle, and one, shoot. Guys are going vertical, and defenses are being rewarded for playing strong vertical defense. And as long as they stay vertical,
You
referees
think
letting it go.
you think the officiating crews have been told that lighten up on the freedom of movement call?
They've probably been told people didn't pay to see you.
Yeah. Well, then, and going back to your point about, you were talking about, defensive teams are being rewarded for being straight vertical, and about the Big Ten play, you see that every night. The Big Ten guys are banging down under the rim.
Right.
You saw Rivante Rice do that in the NIT. He'd get hit strong enough to get it up on the rim, and
Yep.
it goes in or it doesn't. But it's something that Big Ten players are accustomed to.
Exactly. And that's why going to the matchup that you're going to see on Saturday, which is Wisconsin, Arizona, Arizona has some athletes. Nick Johnson, Aaron Gordon, NBA ready right now. But what you're going to see is you're going to see the Wisconsin players basically be like Velcro. They're going to put bodies on bodies on bodies, and all Bo Ryan has to do is just turn to his bench and send another guy, and send another guy, and send another guy. And you're going to see waves of Badgers hitting that floor and getting in the belly. And here's the other thing. Arizona only has a day to prepare for this team. You know, they had all week to prepare for San Diego State.
Correct.
But they only got 24 hours to prepare for Wisconsin. That's where I think the coaching comes into play. Does it mean Sean Miller's not a good coach for Arizona? No. It means I think Bo Ryan, with his experience, and as I said, being able to coach in the Big Ten, and the quality and caliber of talent they have to play night in and night out, I think that's where the edge is going to come in for Wisconsin. And then I will be able to eat my cinnamon rolls in peace because Wisconsin will be a Final Four team.
All right. Dayton-Stanford game. Pretty decent ball game. Dayton it took off on them in the first half. Stanford tried to keep it close.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they got no closer than, 10 points? That was the final score, 82-72. They couldn't get any closer than 10 points. Dayton, good fast ball club.
The issue in that game, and we've talked about all year, making shots. Chason Randall, the guard from Rock Island who plays for Stanford, went 5 for 21. When your best player doesn't show up,
You're in trouble.
that's it. Because I told you before, and I keep saying it, tournament basketball is totally different than regular season basketball. The pressure of one and done changes how some guys play the game. And if you look at what happened with him, going 5 for 21, you mentioned the speed of Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly guys are coming at you, whether it be the starters on the floor, guys coming off the bench, speed on the edges, where every time you put the ball on the floor and you're looking for a clean look and you can't get one, that starts to mess with your psyche. And then, as I've said before, you look up at the clock, it's 18 minutes on the clock. You look down, you look back up, it's only 9 minutes left on the clock. The sense of urgency starts to get on you. And now
The factor comes into play.
and that basket starts to shrink just like your pucker up.
Well, and the other thing too, you were talking about, Big Ten basketball and how
He's stupid.
how that style of play affects games in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Dayton's in the Midwest,
Mm-hmm.
and Stanford's not.
Right.
Stanford's out on the left coast,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Land of fruits and nuts.
I didn't say you did. That style of basketball that's a foul.
Right.
In the Midwest, well, here, let me get the sledgehammer out and hit you.
Right.
That's a foul.
That's a foul.
So, the speed of the game and all that stuff, and it's kind of surprising that Randall didn't have some concept of that because he's from the Chicago area.
Right.
But he is still an 18, 19, whatever, 17, 18, 19-year-old freshman on the big stage. So I think the style of basketball had something to do with it because, as we all know, Dayton went head-to-head with Ohio State in their first game, beat them,
Mm-hmm.
and coming at you, particularly in the MAC, which I think is where Dayton is in, or what used to be called the MAC. You had, when Gross was at Ohio, he ran all the time, 10, 8, 10 people.
Mhm.
Everybody in the MAC plays quick. And, quite frankly, in my fact-based opinion, Stanford is, kind of that, you don't think of West Coast basketball, unless maybe it's Oregon or Oregon State, as a grind them out, blue collar type of basketball. It's more that, quote, pretty boy type of basketball type of thing. So,
Mhm.
the styles are definitely different.
Right.
Okay. This is the first time Dayton has been to the Elite Eight since, I think they said 1985. And one more thing about this basketball game. Is it me or is Condoleezza Rice sexy?
That would
It's
be you.
That would be
I
you.
mean, all right.
Yeah.
I think we would say you and move forward quickly.
Okay. Florida 79, UCLA 68.
Shows why Florida was the number 1 seed. UCLA was playing as hard as they could to stay close.
Yeah, they were.
They were not playing hard to get the lead. They were playing hard to stay close.
Yeah, because
To not be
there were several occasions where it looked like Florida was getting ready to blow them out the gym.
Right. And Florida, you talk about speed. Watch how fast Florida transitions from offense to defense, and the vice versa. They play the game at a higher rate. You could see that at the beginning of the game. UCLA was trying to fast break with them, and that gap just started widening and widening. And that's when UCLA figured out, we can't run with these dudes.
Yeah, because they get down there, take a quick shot, and all of a sudden it's going the other way.
Right.
That
You know?
quick, too.
Yeah.
And the thing that they do, if you watch a spatial relationship when Florida has the ball,
Ooh.
I worked on that this morning too. But their spatial relationship on the offensive end, they've got guys spread out on the perimeter, and therefore Nick Young gets down there in the post. You can't help.
Right.
And so since you can't help, you got to pick your poison. Are you going to have this 50-year-old grown man, because he looks like with the beard, fear the beard. When he gets it in the block, you can't stop him. Or if you drop down, they got perimeter guys who just knock it down
Right.
all day. And you think about a team that's been to the Elite Eight 4 years in a row. So they have one mindset. I think they're playing themselves. They're not even playing the opponent.
Well, they won what, like 29 games in a row
Yeah.
now. So who you got? You got Dayton. You got Florida.
Florida easy. I'm going to say Florida easy because of what I just described. Dayton's going to come out mentally thinking they can run with Florida. And to me, it's like boxing. Dayton fought Stanford to get to the championship match against the champ. And they're going to find out the difference in talent from the champ to Stanford. And they're going to find that out real quick in that game. Now, their adrenaline may keep them at that pace early. But when their adrenaline starts to come down and Florida stays right there and they keep going, that's when they're like, man, these dudes are good. Time out from the game.
I'm going with Dayton. Going for the upset.
Okay.
I guess we already got all three of us got Wisconsin in the
I've definitely got Wisconsin.
All right, let's look at tonight's matchups. You got Virginia and Michigan State, Iowa State and Connecticut. You got Tennessee and Michigan, and you got the one that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
I think this is the third matchup. I think this year, Kentucky and Louisville.
Yep.
I think didn't Louisville beat them?
I think they split. I believe they
Okay.
split.
All right, this is a rubber match. Ought to be a decent ball game, but I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to hang with Louisville tonight.
You've got two issues here. You've got the youthful exuberance of Kentucky, if they play like they did against Wichita State.
Which I don't think they're going to play with that same intensity against.
Or you're going to have the way you're describing, the youthful inexperience of Kentucky, the way they played the rest of the year. So do you take one game, which was last Sunday, or do you take the season?
I take the season.
And I think if you are a betting man, which we don't condone betting,
But if we did,
I would take the Cardinals. Because here's what I'm going to see. The pressure, not of the game, but the pressure that Louisville will apply. Louisville
Whoa.
will apply. Louisville will apply,
Northern folks.
yeah, I know.
against Kentucky. I wear shoes, so I don't know. I mean, I know it's optional down there. But I really think that their defensive pressure, everybody talks about, Kentucky's got big guys. They can see over the press, etc. You playing in Indianapolis. It's going to be about 40,000+ folks in there. You think about being a freshman guard, the Harrison twins.
They're good, though.
I didn't say they weren't good.
I know.
But man, you look up there and you see all that red and blue.
Yeah, 'cause
and,
Yeah, but
you're only about 2 hours from
and Louisville,
Louisville.
least we forget, are the defending national champions.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that keeps getting lost in the whole tournament. Everybody talks about everybody else, but they're the champs. They are the ones who won this thing last year.
until somebody beats them.
And who did they really lose other than Silva? And they lost Bohannon. They are the defending NCAA national champions. So that's what I'm looking at from this standpoint. I think Louisville wins double digits.
I think so too. Mike?
I'm going with Kentucky. And yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
To your point about 40,000 people in Indy, those kids play in Rupp Arena to whatever it is, 20 grand, whatever, every single home game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the huge crowd will necessarily affect them as much as it might some other team, because wherever they go to play on an away game, it's Kentucky. So we're going to beat Kentucky.
Well, the reason why I said that is because they lost 12 games this year.
Well,
If they had only lost 4 or 5 games, then I'd say these guys are battle tested and they, it doesn't bother them. But to lose 12 games, they lost an SEC title game to Florida. I just think that when the rubber meets the road, I think Louisville's experience of the championship game last year will override the talent, because they are talent. I mean, across the board, whether it's the Harrison twins, Young,
The big kid in the middle.
Randall.
Randall, yeah, thank you.
You've got guys coming off they got 7-footers coming off the bench in terms of Kentucky.
Well, and the other thing that I mean, I like Rick Pitino. Don't get me wrong, I like him, and Louisville's a solid team. But I just think that Calipari has an ability to get his players to come up big most of the time when the spotlight's on.
I bet you a cinnamon roll. Can I get a cinnamon roll?
Yeah, we're going to go to break here in a minute.
So, and the other thing is they're familiar with one another. So
Right.
I don't. If Louisville wins, it would not surprise me at all. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. But I got to go with Kentucky
All right, another number 1 team. Virginia takes on Michigan State.
State.
People are not giving Virginia the respect they do because of the fact that Michigan State has been the sexy pick. And they're playing the way they went through the Big Ten tournament and now the way they went through their first 2 games. But if you look at, we go back to talking about conferences. Virginia won the ACC regular season and the tournament. They play real solid defense. We talked earlier about Bo Ryan, but Bo Ryan is a descendant of Tony Bennett's dad, Dick Bennett. They play the same style. Virginia is going to try to slow this thing down. If it was, I always use the boxing analogy, they're just going to try to body blow Michigan State to death. The thing I think for Michigan State, if Dawson and Payne can dominate the glass, now that they're back and they're back healthy, and make Virginia pack things down in the middle of the lane where Harris and Trice and Appling can hit the 3, and even Valentine, I then think at that point, Michigan State, and I have to go with Mike, I think Michigan State wins this game.
Me too. The Who Cares game, Iowa State and Connecticut.
Iowa State.
I go with UConn. They're playing in Madison Square Garden.
Iowa State.
But like you said.
And the final game, Tennessee and Michigan. The Vols.
I have to salute Tennessee for the run that they've made. They had to play a play-in game just to get in the tournament.
Yeah, I know. Ain't that so?
And now that they've played in, picked up a little energy, enthusiasm, and momentum. But the way Michigan shoots,
Yeah.
they will. The issue for Tennessee, because everybody keeps talking about, well, how can Michigan rebound with the big guys for Tennessee? I look at it completely opposite. How can those big guys guard the players for Michigan? Michigan's going to put 4 guys on that 3 line. And you got to pick your poison. Is it Stauskas, Levert, Big Dog Jr., or Walton, or Albrecht when he comes in off the bench? So you've got those 4 on the perimeter, and then Morgan and Horford do the best role play of any guys in the tournament. They know their job is to rebound, play defense, and make the occasional putback bucket if they do get the ball from those 4 out there. If Michigan comes out shooting a 3 like they normally do,
nobody's beating them. It's going to be hard for anybody to beat them.
All right, I got Michigan.
So 3 Big Ten teams in Florida on Monday?
Ooh, that might be. In one of my brackets, I have that. My 5th bracket.
The one you just did?
Right. The one I fill out after each game.
All right, what time? Oh, man, we've been jabbing our jaws for almost a full hour. We got to take a break. But when we come back, we got a topic here that is going to enlighten a few of you. If not, what's the word I'm looking for?
That's all on you.
Right. Since you're the one who thinks Condoleezza is sexy. Open up your verbiage.
Call me.
Call you what?
Anyway, a labor union says that Northwestern football players can unionize.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this ruling goes through, it could revolutionize, change even, the scope of college sports.
Forever.
Joe may finally be getting his say. We'll be back with more Talking Sports. We're going to enjoy some cinnamon rolls right after these.
Welcome back. Talking Sports, WBCP 1580, UPTV channel.
6.
And you versus
99.
See, all over the place. Check us out on Twitter at
Where?
I don't know. I like to say that. You know, you can see that on other TV shows. Follow me on Twitter on blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
those cinnamon rolls are good.
Are you gonna recycle that aluminum foil?
No, actually, I'm going to throw it away in a minute. There's one roll left. I'm glad y'all left me one.
Now wait a minute.
We left you all the milk. What more do you want?
As they say on Sanford the Sun, these are homegrown bellies. You don't leave food in front of homegrown bellies like that. Understood?
Mm-hmm.
You just don't do that. Speaking of homegrown, in winter break, you had brought up the subject of the Chicago
I lost it.
Labor Relations Board made a ruling. You know what? That looked like one of my books from college.
Yeah, you know, you gotta
You highlighted everything.
highlight the bullet points. I read that somewhere.
Let's see, that's bullet points.
I
He
mean-
highlighted the whole page.
After all, it was 3 pages.
Oh, okay. You broke it down to
I just covered
Bullet
it.
points.
Bullet points. Northwestern University football players are employees of the school and are therefore entitled to union elections. That according to Peter Sung Orr, the regional director of the National Labor Relations Board. And he said that in a release ruling on Wednesday afternoon. Orr's decision is expected to be appealed by the NLRB in Washington. Labor expert says an election is unlikely to take place until the NLRB makes a decision. If Orr's decision is upheld, the case will likely make its way through federal appellate court and could reach as high as the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they are saying is that these football players are in fact employees of Northwestern University.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they are entitled to rights under the the federal labor laws, or something like that, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts, Joseph? I know you've been waiting to jump on this for some time now.
Jump on it like a cat on a hot tin roof. I've been telling you for years. You've been arguing with me about this. The issue at hand is one thing and one thing only: money. When money is injected into any situation, it changes the dynamics of that situation. If you think about whether it be the Northwestern athletes, University of Illinois athletes, or athletes in general, what are they brought into the university to do?
According to who?
Exactly.
No, just what would you think if I'm recruiting you as a football player? Why am I bringing you to the University of Illinois?
Play football.
To play football. Okay. Are we playing football on the side of a building in grass with a few people standing around? Or am I bringing you in to play football for the sole purpose of generating revenue for the University of Illinois?
Yes.
There you go. That's the reason why we've gotten to this point. You know, everybody talks about, well, you know, when you bring an athlete in, he's getting a free education. That education is not free. You put a value on that education when you bring these young men in. Furthermore, if you think about how athletes are structured in terms of their time, when they have to go to practice, when they can go to class, because everybody says, well, athletes, they're student athletes, they're just like any other student. No, they're not. Because they can't go to class when every other student goes, because that's structured around when practice is. Spring break just hit at the University of Illinois. Most students went where? Went down to Cancun or wherever, hung out, taking pictures, Instagram, all that, having a great time. Where were the football players at?
Spring practice.
Practicing.
Well,
they were working.
Even the basketball players were back at Ubin doing their own workouts.
There you go.
And whatnot.
The freedoms, just like an employee, are restricted based on the classification that they bring these guys in. That's why for years I've been arguing about compensation. But as I told Mike off the air, this really is not about dollars now. This is really about benefits. Because you think about what the big argument is over the past few years with employees. People will go and they say such and such is paying X amount of dollars an hour. But they don't offer benefits. And such offers benefits. I'd rather go there and take a few dollars less and get the benefits. Why are the benefits so important? Me and Mike also talked about off the air. Think about what's happening in the NFL. Health benefits for guys who have these injuries that have caused partial or permanent disabilities years down the road. And if you don't have the health benefits to take care of the treatment that you're going to need after you get through playing, that can screw you up for a lifetime. And I think that's the direction where Kane Coulter and these guys are looking at it. Let's unionize, not to make Northwestern pay us 10, 15 grand a semester or whatever, but we want to unionize so that we can protect our rights as employees in terms of the benefit package that everybody else receives at the University of Northwestern.
Okay, it says here, among some of those demands is seeking financial coverage for former players with sports-related medical expenses, independent compensation experts to be placed on the sidelines during games, and for the creation of an educational trust fund to help former players graduate.
Now, remember going to that trust fund. Remember what I talked about in terms of how you can compensate an athlete without actually paying them while they're in school? I've said, and I always use the round number of 10,000. Pay the athlete a stipend of $10,000 a year that goes into a fund. The first requirement I'd have on the athlete, if we're going to make this in terms of a negotiated settlement, you have to graduate within 6 years to receive that stipend from the university. The second thing is, if you go to a professional league, and I say professional because a lot of people say, you know, well, NBA, NFL. No, if you go overseas, D. Brown went overseas, $500,000 a year. That's good money.
And he's been doing it for a while.
Well, that stipend comes back to the university, and that money is now used as a scholarship in the name of that athlete, but it's not a athletic scholarship. It's an academic scholarship that will go to a student at your former high school, so that we now can get more students who come in from inner city schools, et cetera, who don't get that opportunity based on your ability to generate revenue at that school.
What if I don't want to give you my money?
That's part of the negotiated settlement, as I'm saying earlier, through the union and the school.
Well, you got it all worked out, don't you?
I'm just, that's my idea.
Oh.
That's my idea of
That's
how the
right.
money can be used. If you graduate in 6 years, you don't play professional sports, that money is now yours,
To do with as you please.
please, after, because you've earned it.
Okay. As you all know, that most college student athletes don't go on to play professional sports.
Right.
So a lot of this money will be getting paid out as far as I mean, a lot of this money will be getting paid out and not as much coming back.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. I definitely see what you're saying.
Well, but you do have the instance where, you have the #1 draft choice in whatever sport, signs the huge contract, and I would hope, and as I understand it, I wasn't here, but as I understand it, when Darren Williams left early after his junior year and all that stuff, there might have been some bad blood between him and the university, but now as he's matured and whatnot, that has changed. So, as Joe said, 10 grand or whatever, if you go to professional sport, you have to give that back. I would hope that young men and women, for that matter, would not think that that's the extent of their commitment is $10,000.
Right. And so for when I say 10,000, I say 10,000 a year. So I'm saying when you finish, you're leaving with 40 grand or whatever the amount of dollars are for that 4-year period. And so if you start your career, you're going to accounting or business administration.
Now that's if you're a scholarship player. Now what if you're a walk-on and you're paying your own way through school?
But if you're an NCAA student athlete, according to what I've read, you would be able to be part of that union. It's not.
I go my student loan.
It's not just scholarship athletes, because you have some programs at some schools don't offer scholarships.
Right.
And going from the level that the Michigans and the Illinois and the Stanfords and whoever are at Division I, if you will, all the way down to NAIA or whatever it's called, Division V, for lack of a better way of describing it.
Barton College.
Or Millikin. Millikin doesn't offer athletic scholarships.
Right. They just give a lot of financial aid to their athletes. But now let's turn it on its head. Let's flip it. Now you unionize and you fall into the definition of being an employee. Your scholarship that you had been receiving from the university now becomes what? Compensation. When you get paid, who gets a part of your pay?
Uncle Sam.
Exactly. Now, let's look at the ramifications of the athlete. You're now going to get taxed on your scholarship or any compensation you receive from the university. Well, if I get an $80,000 a year or $80,000 scholarship, maybe it's 20 grand a year. Now I've got FICA and SUDA and FUDA and Social Security. I'm paying taxes on that money.
Welcome to the real world.
Right. So now, do I want to become an employee at a university and have to pay taxes on something that right now not?
These guys want to play football. They're going to play.
Right, but if you're going to play, how are you going to pay your taxes, Sam? Is what I'm asking you. Well, I'm playing devil's advocate now.
But hold on. When you sign up for this team, they're gonna pass you your W-2 form for you to sign out and fill out.
Exactly. But what I'm saying to you is now I'm getting a tax bill, but I'm not receiving any real compensation in terms of cash in my pocket. How am I going to pay that bill?
At the end of the year, like everybody else.
Well,
how is what I'm saying to you.
But here's the other thing: they're not going to be taxed on what their health insurance costs.
Right.
They're not going to be taxed on.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, because you're not.
What? Right. Well, you're talking about independent contractor versus employee.
No, I'm talking about an employee. If I'm an employee of an organization, I get taxed on what my salary is.
Right.
I don't necessarily get taxed
for your benefits.
For my benefits, and it depends on the benefit. But, and the other thing is, in that regard, I mean, what's the limit for when you have to file a tax return? 15 grand a year, something like that. I don't know what it is, but are they? Would they be compensated to that level to where that would be an issue? I don't know. And
that's why I've said that this is going
to take a while.
This is going to take a long time because our last week when we talked about it, and we talked about the value of teams. I remember you said, "Well, that's not going to be fair because Louisville make $40 million," and that's my Sam voice when I do it like that. Louisville.
There you go.
Louisville. Now you're seeing where this. Mike asked me off the air. Do you think schools will be proactive and try to get this thing taken care of, especially the big money, the Kansases and schools like that? I said no, because if they step out, if a Kentucky steps out and says, "Yep, we're gonna go ahead and take care of our guys," or Kansas steps out, "We're gonna take care of our guys," what type of ramifications comes back from labor relations in terms of all the things they would have to do
Okay.
in terms of negotiating?
Okay, we got to take a phone call. When we come back, we're talking about, is this going to transfer toward the basketball teams, the baseball teams, the swimming teams, the tennis teams, all the other athletic programs at the university? We'll get into that after this call.
3599227. Talking sports. Talk to us, caller.
Hey, what's going on, Joe? This is John. How you guys in charge doing?
All right,
great.
all right.
Great. I was.
Hey, wait a minute.
I was going over that.
You
hear
forgot
me?
about you forgot about Mike.
Yeah, you
You
Oh, sorry, Mike. I can barely hear him. I didn't know he was there. Okay, guys. Let me. I was fingering something about this Northwestern situation. It's going to be something down the road, I know. But here's the thing. Now, take it out of the context of sports. Let's go to the university system of union. Then let's get into the correctional system of union. Now, there's some hotshot lawyers that are probably sitting in jail waiting for this to fall and get put in their say-so because the warden is in the union, the correctional officer is in the union. Well, don't the inmates work within the prison system? Now they're trying to figure out, can we get into a union? So you're going to open up the doors for a bunch of stuff if something like this would fly. So this is going to be on the table for a while until majority of us are not here. Then they say, well, let's just throw it in file 13.
Yeah, I like I said, John, I agree. It's going to take some time. I don't know if it's going to happen as quick as some people would like to have it. But I do think that it will open a Pandora's box for some other areas out there when it comes to employment.
It will. And then another thing, too. Now, Northwestern, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Northwestern like a private school?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. See, we got private and we got non-private. It's going to go different directions. So it's going to be a piece of work, but it's going to be down the road somewhere.
Yes, sir. We totally agree with you
You
on
guys
that.
take care.
Thank you,
All
John. Appreciate you calling.
Thank you, Colin. I can see the prisoners now.
Well, but
We know our union rights.
But here's the thing: if you're a prisoner, you don't have any rights.
This is true.
So that's a moot point.
Well.
And about Northwestern being a private school, is it? I don't know how the complaint was written or filed or anything, but is it directed specifically at Northwestern or is it directed at the NCAA?
No,
At Northwestern.
It's just at
Yeah,
Northwestern.
when Kane Coulter filed this, it was on behalf of the
Northwestern.
and the football players there. And to me, the striking thing about this whole deal, Coulter's finished. His career is done.
Right.
Yeah, he used to play for Northwestern.
Right. He just finished up this year.
This past year, yeah.
So in terms of moving forward, this is not, in reference to just current players. As I said before, we're talking about guys who will be leaving the university. And so this arena that we've talked about for years about how do you compensate athletes, and you just asked the question, does it apply to tennis, soccer, softball, baseball, etc.? And the answer is yeah, it has to. And the reason why it has to is because think about if you look at the departments over at the university, you can't be exclusive in terms of who can unionize and who can't.
Mm-hmm.
Now if you choose as a group not to unionize, that's your choice. But if football is allowed to unionize and basketball is allowed to unionize, softball, soccer, tennis, and they'll also have the right to unionize. Now if they choose to do it or not, I think will fall within that particular dynamic of what department they're in. But in terms of being allowed to do it, I think everybody gets that opportunity. Once the first domino falls, they all got to fall.
Yeah, I know. So I know the brass at Northwestern is taking a good hard look at this and wondering, what we're going to do, how we're going to combat this. Do you think other schools now are looking at this and saying, hey, we better look down the road just in case this comes to our school?
Oh, it's definitely going to come to other schools, and I think to Mike's point, this is the litmus test for everybody else. I think once this gets to the national level, whatever review happens there, as I told Mike, I said what I believe will happen, it's going to be an overturn when it gets to D.C. And the only reason why I believe that, I think what they're going to be looking for is just more data and more information, because there's so many schools, there's so many sports, and the variance in money, they've got to be able to make sure that this is something that can be instituted across the board. at that point, you will see a super change in dynamics when it comes to football. And this is my example. Let's think about Alabama right now. Arguably the top football program right now in college. Based on winning, based on their recruiting, and based on the amount of revenue that program generates. Think about a school like Notre Dame, who's been independent of everybody because of the fact, they're on the Notre Dame broadcasting system.
And they want to keep their own money.
Right, they want to keep their own. But think about how much money they generate. So what happens there? So they want to make sure that, if we want to make Notre Dame a corporation and Alabama a corporation, they would be Fortune 500 corporations in this system.
Fortune 100.
And there'd be a lot of schools who would end up dropping football and maybe even basketball because they could not sustain it at a high level because they would not have the revenue to pay not only the players, but pay the benefits for players who've left long after.
Well, you could be talking about your Division 2 and 3 schools.
No, I'm talking about Division I schools who could not afford to pay. You said last week when we looked at the top basketball program, Illinois makes $15 million. The value of their program. Lowell is worth 40
something million.
All right, so if I'm an athlete, a basketball player, where do I go to school?
Go to Louisville so you can get paid.
Right. There you go.
And again, I think a lot of that will depend on how the ruling comes out. Because like we were talking about earlier, if it's, whatever the stipend is that scholarship athletes get now, we'll say $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If that increases across the board to every NCAA institution to $1,500 a month, and they're allowed to have a job, then you take away that. Well, is Louisville worth $40 million? Illinois only worth $50 million because you're only going to get $1,500 a month regardless of where you go.
Right.
So, I think it may not necessarily be individual schools that are, going to the bathroom and checking their pants, but I think the NCAA is really concerned because they are the governing body, so to speak, and that's across all levels of intercollegiate athletics.
And going to your point about NCAA and them checking their pants, what happens there is that, let's say, for example, it's not an even stipend across the board. Now, we see these power conferences being developed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can have a power division where, going to what I said earlier, the super corporations, the Alabamas, the Notre Dames, the USCs, the Ohio States, the Michigans, maybe 12 of the top 10, 12 schools say, screw the NCAA, this is where we're at. We're going to do it just like corporate America. We're going to pay to the highest bidder, best benefits. So now you're going to hear this recruiting. Hey, you're a heck of a quarterback. I'd love for you to come to the University of Alabama. But more importantly, after your playing days are over at the University of Alabama, guess who's going to take care of you? The University of Alabama.
We got
excellent benefits at the University of Alabama.
The state of Alabama.
And so now you're like, man, I could go to Ohio State, but if I blow my knee out, Alabama's going to take care of me I'm going to Alabama. And so now you start to see, like I said, and it's already happening in terms of recruiting anyway. Now we're just really trying to legalize this thing by making a determination, are these guys employees of the school, number one, and if they are, how much can we compensate?
Now, they said this thing could go all the way to the Supreme Court, and you're talking maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see happening between now and then? Now, you said it would get to Washington, D.C., where the Supreme Court is going to be overturned. I think in that years that it takes to get there, I think the Supreme Court by then will have enough information on this where they will be able to make a ruling.
No, I'm saying that it's going to be overturned by the National Labor Relations Board.
Oh.
By the time it gets to the Supreme Court, that's where your litmus test of all the information will be there at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I think the National Labor Relations Board would overturn this rule. We also got to remember this. When we say this ruling, it was one guy's opinion out of Chicago. This wasn't like 5 or 6 people have put out some opinion. One guy made this opinion. So now it's going to go to the national level, and that's going to go to another group, and that's when the thing gets kicked back. So I think it's the wheels are going to grind slow, but this is the first step in the change of collegiate athletics for what we know.
The Kurt Flood of college football.
Well, and the other thing is as well. All right, just call it.
Oh, we got to call it 359-9227. Talking sports. Talk to us, caller.
Yeah, Joe, this is John again. Now, you guys just opened up a good issue. If you remember when Alabama played USC, remember they was recruiting Mitchell from a junior college at Arizona, one of them junior colleges, to come to USC. Bear Bryant found out. Bear Bryant got Mitchell to come to Alabama because he was from Birmingham, Alabama. So that started that civil rights movement down south to getting black players into the NCAA to play football. So that's a good issue you guys are bringing up.
Well, appreciate you hearing that, John. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of complexities in this thing and different ways of how this thing will play out. But I think, as you indicated and Sarge indicated, this thing it'll probably be 10 years.
Yeah.
Before we even see
That's what happened when you remember when Notre Dame tried to enter the Big Ten. Everybody said, "Wait a minute, that means we got to share revenues. We don't need them in the Big Ten. They're making enough money."
Right. You got it.
Sure,
All right. Thanks, John.
One quick point that I was going to make is in the ruling the director made, the O guy or whatever his name is he specifically addressed that the players, Northwestern receives an economic benefit from the fruits and efforts of the players. Mm-hmm. So not only will this ruling affect Northwestern and potentially the NCAA, but it might even, in fact, affect everybody else if they change that, as I said earlier when we were talking about foundational definition of the employer-employee relationship. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Well, my final comment on it is that it was one of those things that it was inevitable for this conversation to get to this legal level now. It has been talked about for a generation now. Once the TV revenue came involved in collegiate athletics, and when you now as an athlete go to a bookstore and see your likeness of your jersey hanging up in a bookstore and being sold for $50 to $75, and you don't get a dime of that, but the reason why that jersey sells for that price is from the fruits of your labor, something has to change. And everybody for generations have said this argument about, free education. Well, as I said at the beginning of the conversation, education isn't free. There's a value put on education every year when they talk about what a degree gets you if you go into a particular field. So since we know that now, and we also know how much money is generated through collegiate football and basketball, inevitably, from my standpoint, this is going to happen. Will it happen within the next 5 years? I'd say no, but in 10, I'd say yes.
Well, if we're here in 10 years.
what?
If we're here in 10 years, we'll be eating cinnamon rolls.
There we go.
And
I can't see
pasteurized milk in a chill bottle.
I can't see it happening, but
Fresh from the cow.
All right.
I'll be retired in 10 years.
We hope so. You and Condoleezza Rice on the island?
My baby.
I can see that. I can see you running your fingers through her hair.
Oh, yeah.
Getting stuck every other turn.
Oh, yeah. Tell me some more.
I'm already getting sick to my stomach just thinking about it.
All right, before we go to break.
Not the milk.
Oh, come on, leave her alone. She's cute. Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice was indicted Thursday on an aggravated assault charge stemming from an altercation with his fiancée in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. Rice was charged with third-degree aggravated assault, a crime that carries a potential 3 to 5 years imprisonment. But we know he'll never see that. Rice's attorney could not be immediately reached for comment. Police were called to Revel Casino and Hotel in early morning hours of February 15th to respond to a domestic dispute between Pro Bowl running back and his girlfriend, Janae Palmer. After interviewing surveillance footage, it appears that both parties were involved in a physical altercation where they supposedly struck each other with, as we used to say when we used to fill out our police report, with a closed fist.
Numerous times without the head.
Anyway,
About the head and shoulders.
My question is, officers, is there any other thing other than how can you have an open fist?
no, your closed fist or your open hand.
Oh. So what my point is, why do you have to say closed
I don't know.
as a descriptive? Because a fist is a fist.
No.
That's a fist.
Yeah.
That's an open hand.
Yes, but it has to be closed in order to be a fist.
It's the military.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot military
It's
intelligence.
redundant. It's
Military intelligence. Oxymoron.
There you go. And of course, we've all seen the video of Ray Rice dragging his unconscious woman out the elevator.
Once again, there you go as a prosecutor saying my client was dragging his fiance out of the elevator. He was merely assisting her as she was incapacitated due to a nondescript medical condition.
He hit her, rendered her unconscious.
Did you see my client hit his fiance with said closed fist that you've put in this doctor's report?
As you could tell by the way he was dragging her out, she
Your
was
Honor.
dead weight, and there's no way she could have been physically able to hold herself up.
Your Honor.
As indicated
That's
by
all.
said video.
Your Honor, that's all conjecture. The video doesn't give you all the specifics and significance of what was happening at said event. I rest my case.
Was your client assisting her by the heels or by the head?
At that point, my client was in a state of stress and duress. Sometimes we don't act in the most logical fashion when we're put into those situations.
You sound a lot like Bill Cosby right now.
Here's what happened.
Jello pudding.
After he drug her out of the elevator, when approached by a witness, he drops her.
No, he gently laid his fiance back on the floor.
6 feet above the floor.
He drops her, right?
Did she bounce when your client gently laid her on the floor?
No, she was also, as I said earlier, incapacitated. Therefore, I think this is once again a farce, as you are just trying to label my client something that he is not.
Anyway, both were charged, and both were let go.
See? Both.
Yeah.
Why both were charged?
Both went home.
And now they don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
There's a misunderstanding.
That's all it was.
Baby, why you knocked me out?
Because you hit me first.
Because I misunderstood that punch you threw in my face.
Anyway.
Hey, but going to something real quick. I just saw this, if I may. You and your girl crush on Condoleezza, you know the best part about that?
What?
You can play golf at Augusta.
Yes.
Don't they have the Masters coming up soon?
Yeah.
Next week, eh?
Yeah, I believe so.
Dang.
He's. Go ahead, Sergeant.
Move forward.
Man.
He's still starry-eyed about just picturing himself.
I got
Right.
I got excited there for a minute. Jared Allen to the Bears. Julius Peppers
That's about how long it would be.
to the Packers.
On a good day.
I'm ready, Sam.
Here I
I'm
come,
not.
baby. Here I come. We'll be back right after these.
Welcome back. Talking Sports, WBCP 1580. Smacking Long Cassidy sitting right next to us.
Get minute rise.
Hey, I saw that. You watch the fingers.
Yeah.
IHSA saw that. You get suspended for the third place game.
You gotta do it quick.
Right. Do it with your index finger. That's how you do it. Now, when we went to commercial break, you'd mentioned something about somebody going somewhere in football and something.
Jared Allen to the Bears.
Jared Allen to who?
The Bears.
To who?
Former Minnesota Viking defensive end. Jared Allen
Mm-hmm.
to the Chicago Bears. Also, Julius Peppers,
To the Green Bay Packers.
former Bear defensive end, to the Green Bay Packers.
And former Chicago Bear defensive end, defensive tackle, Corey Wooten, to the Minnesota Vikings.
Now, we mentioned this during the show, before the show started, about, they always say about don't trade players within your division.
Right. But this wasn't trade. These were guys who were free agents, and they could make deals with whoever they wanted.
Yeah, but it's basically along the same lines. Here are players signing within their division.
Mm-hmm. Your point is?
It could be a very interesting season.
Now,
both of these guys are, I ain't gonna say a little long in the tooth, but they've been in the league a few years.
ain't long in the tooth. They got to file their teeth so they can close their mouth.
Both of them were productive last season, but have had better seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're in new spots, new places, new things. What do you think?
Julius Peppers, I think if you looked at the individuals, I would say he won the best of the deal. And here's my thought process on that. The Packers defense, I think, is a little bit better than the Bears defense, number one. Number two, you can take Clay Matthews and put him right behind Julius Peppers, and now teams have to make a decision.
Who do I block?
That's it.
I think the Packers were planning on using Julius Peppers a lot in a linebacker spot.
Right, but he can, and that's the thing, with his athleticism, you can stand him up, you can move him around, put him down in a three-point stance. He's a very versatile guy. As I said to Mike when we come back from break, I look at Peppers as a games changer. You know, he's that kind of guy that might tip a ball, pick it off, and take it 40 yards for a touchdown himself. And I think that's the reason why I say I think the Packers got the better end of the deal. With Jared Allen, does he have a high motor? Yes. Is he a double-digit sack guy? Yes. But what are the drawbacks to a Jared Allen? We talked about age, but I think more importantly, for the past 7 years, 7 years, he's been on turf in Minnesota. And I think we all know that you get a little extra step playing off turf. When he was also playing in the Metrodome with the crowd noise that gave him that extra step to get off against the offensive tackles he was playing against. Now he's going to Soldier Field. He's going to play on grass, so he's not going to have that burst that he had playing in Minnesota. The other thing is that the Bears' defense is not the Bear defense of old. And when you bring in a guy like a Jared Allen, you know, a lot of people think, okay, he's going to be the game changer. But remember how the season ended last year. You saw Aaron Rodgers rolling out, throwing a deep ball to Randall Cobb, and them beating the Bears in Soldier Field because of what? Secondary stunk.
Mm-hmm.
Safeties were horrible. It wasn't a pass rush. It was everything behind the pass rush. If they haven't addressed that, then to me this is a bust move in this area. They gave an aging pass rusher $15 million guaranteed. $24 million in terms of total contract. But he got $15 million guaranteed. I think they should have gave Julius Peppers $15 million guaranteed. If you don't give Jared Allen $15 million, I think Peppers does more. But
who are you?
Who am I?
That's right.
Just a
Philadelphia let Deshaun Jackson go, then sign Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Starting with Jackson,
Everybody speaks.
this is to me on a social area. This is not a football area. The conversation in Philadelphia was that there was questions about Deshaun Jackson's off the field behavior. And they talked about him missing meetings and late for practice, and then they tried to, I won't say try, they talked about his association with questionable characters.
2 gang members.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
I did the Philadelphia. He did the sports news.
So they got rid of him, huh?
So they got rid of him. But here's the thing that, for me, looking at it from this standpoint, Andy Reid brought Deshaun Jackson in as a second-round pick. He had first-round talent, but there was always questions about him coming in. Dynamic receiver, very explosive. And you get rid of him, you know, not based on football performance, but based on off-the-field stuff. Now, I know Chip Kelly's new coach. He wants to, kind of set his foundation as the man in charge. But I'm just kind of surprised that you would let a player that dynamic, especially the way they run their offense.
Right.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm like, they run a very wide open, and he's that guy. He's almost like that X factor. And you get rid of him because of some associations off the field.
You got poo-poo them sitting up there in the stands,
Cleaning the gun.
yeah, rolling blunts and stuff, The owners don't take too kindly to that.
But here's my question. You remember we talk about win. You said I thought it was all about winning.
Mm-hmm.
But you kept Riley Cooper.
Right.
That's where I'm looking at it from a football standpoint, not an off-the-field standpoint.
And Jackson fits Chip Kelly's offense much better than
Riley
Cooper does.
There you go.
And he can do more things within that offense.
And he can be a kick returner. He can play a lot of different positions. So it's surprising that he got let go. The question for me is, who picks him up? Because, man, let's say New England picks him up.
They can use the receiver.
Right.
So can the Bears.
Or Steve Smith just left Carolina. He goes down and hooks up with Cam Newton. I'm just thinking about the number of teams that could use a Deshaun Jackson and how effective he would be as soon as he touches that facility, whoever it may be.
Yeah, somebody's going to pick him up.
New Orleans would be a great fit.
Oh.
It'd be an awesome fit.
See? And because now you got Jimmy Graham getting double team running up the seam, and then you run this dude right up underneath that
And you got
single
Drew
coverage.
Brees.
And you got Drew Brees that'll find a needle in a haystack when he's throwing the football.
Excuse me.
So
We'll see what happens. We got some global affairs going on, global events. Of course, the Russians are lined up along the Ukrainian border. They've been over there for almost a month now. They didn't grab hold of Crimea, that little part of Ukraine, and took it over. And now, of course, President Obama and some other nations are about ready to impose sanctions on Russia, and they're about to freeze Russian assets in the United States. With that being said, the Brooklyn Nets are owned by a Russian billionaire. He's planning, I read this last week, he's planning on taking his business, which I'm assuming includes the the Brooklyn Nets, back to Russia. The business point. Now, you probably lead a team. Team just got to stay here. They got to continue to play.
you must leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Moose and Squirrel, get the team round up.
Anyway, he's taking his money so it doesn't get frozen, frozen and caught up here in the States.
But is the U.S. government freezing Russian government assets or just Russian assets?
No,
period?
business,
Oh, yeah.
period.
Well, I know they've identified certain people in the Putin government as individuals who they're freezing their assets.
Now, this guy ran against the owner of the Nets. He actually ran against Putin for president,
Right.
and obviously lost.
So now here's the thing. He ran against Putin and lost. You're a billionaire, but you see with the sanctions that are happening.
But look how he became a billionaire.
Well, look how all billionaires became billionaires.
Well, after Russia, broke up from being Russia, he
Russia broke up from being Russia.
he brought up
Is that what happened with Milli Vanilli?
he brought up a lot of
That's-
ex-Russian stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, and now you want to go back home?
Well, and the surprising thing is that he's alive to make that choice, quite frankly.
Right. That's why he's over here.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, and you want to go back? A fool and his money.
I don't think he's going back.
It soon parted with his shirt.
Right.
He rides horses.
But it's so his assets won't get frozen here in the United States. Is it a good move?
Who's the NBA commissioner now?
Adam Silver.
I mean, there's got to be a discussion going on between the folks in New York and somebody in Washington.
Oh, yeah,
DC
they're-
going, hey, come on now.
Leave this guy out of all the groups and all the people you want to freeze. Leave him alone. Yeah, they'll find a way. As Mike said, there'll be a phone call from New York to D.C. and to the State Department saying, "Hey, can you take this guy off the list? He's kind of important to what we do." Oh.
And we are.
You know, all those other guys, go ahead, do what you do. But him, leave him alone.
He
We
could
are
sell
the
his
biggest-
portion to Jay-Z.
No. Because Jay-Z only had 1%.
1%.
You know. So, I don't see that happening. Is it a good move? Obviously, he's any man who has money is trying, first thing he wants to do is protect his assets. That's what he's trying to do. Is it a smart move, as Mike just described? Do you want to go back to Russia right now?
Because the boss man over there's getting crazier. by
Right.
the minute.
I mean, they've got 50,000 troops amassed on the Ukrainian border. Now,
But we're not going to invade. We're not
right,
going to take it.
we're just checking. We're doing a spring cleanup along the border.
Just,
Readiness exercise.
just looking over the fence.
That's it. Yep. And then somebody pushes. Oh, came over.
Yeah.
You know, and as military guys, as we sit back and watch this, my personal opinion, you let it play out. They're going to go into Ukraine anyway. You know, there's nothing you really can do about it. It's a regional conflict. You know, this is, to me, you know, Brazil and Venezuela, you know, going at it.
I'll go
The only
ahead and
difference
sort that
is,
one out.
that, you know, I think I'll be there to negotiate that deal. And
You know, it would upset the political climate in that region of the country if Russia was to do that.
tell me how.
And-
I mean, how does that, when a lot of people who are already in Ukraine are Russian-born
well,
nationalists?
It's been Russia for many long years.
Right. So, I mean, I don't look at it from the standpoint of a land grab where Putin is going to be, you know, hopping from Ukraine to Romania and all.
But if he took Crimea, if he does Ukraine, what's stopping him from doing the rest of the?
Well, first
region
of all,
also?
Crimea is just
Crimea,
a port city. It's like the tail on a Doberman Pinscher's booty. You know, that's, you know, not to minimize people's lives, but that's what it is. The Russian fleet is already parked there to begin with. It's not like, you know, he
All
came.
3 boats.
There you go. You know, that's how big the place is. And then, you know, the way I look at Ukraine is almost like how Berlin was. I think what you're really going to see is the annexation. A lot of people who want to annex back to Russia, who were part of the former Soviet Union, they'll go, and the folks who want to align themselves with Western Europe. So you might see a split down the middle of Ukraine, you know, and we might have East Ukraine and West Ukraine.
I see a lot of drones flying around. That's what I see. Can you imagine the number of satellites that are parked over Ukraine right about now?
Talk to Condoleezza. She still has
Right.
connections.
Pillow talk with her.
I'll call you, baby.
Minute race.
Indianapolis coach
play golf.
Jim Irsay was arrested. Was it last week?
Mm-hmm.
His speech was slurred, and he was
Yeah,
driving erratically, and he admitted to taking several meds.
Yes.
He had $29,029 in cash
Mm-hmm.
in his vehicle. Most was in a briefcase and a laundry bag.
Yeah.
And he also had numerous bottles containing prescription drugs in his vehicle. Jimmy, where you going?
Laundromat. Got the laundry bag. Do you know how much it
The
costs? Right. You go into the bank, just like when we talked about Ed Reed. Remember we had that money?
Yep.
And do you know how much it costs to go to laundromat now? How many quarters you got to get?
I can't imagine.
$29,000. Yeah, where you been?
Where's Jimmy going, Joe?
He got a laundry bag and 29 grand. He's going to the laundromat. Enough said. You got to get these suspicions out of your head, man.
And the money in the briefcase was a signing bonus for somebody.
There you go. He was just being a good owner, and he was going to drop it off.
Drop it
Prescription
off in
drugs.
Yeah, maybe
He's
just
making deliveries for Walgreens, right?
wow. Now you're really on the right side. You know,
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's just a do-all owner.
But thankfully, you know, he's addressing his whatever his issues are, and his daughter, I guess, is running the team now.
Well, he hasn't. Hold on. Here's the thing, though. He was arrested, taken to jail, spent 4 or 5 hours there. He was let go, but he hasn't been formally charged as of yet.
He went straight to rehab facility right after that. And that also goes to show you on a serious note about, in America we criminalize addiction when most countries treat it as a health problem. And I think that's one of the things that's starting to change. When you see a man who's 54 years old, owns an NFL team, cash is, money's not an issue for him. And for that addiction to get in the way of that part of his lifestyle shows you the health issue that we have to deal with in this country.
If I'm riding down the street, Joe, in my, let's say,
Swin?
Jag.
Okay.
I'm riding down the street in my Jag.
Okay, I'm picturing you in your
Me.
Jag. You.
I'm riding.
Not Condoleezza?
Condoleezza on the passenger
I
side.
just dropped her off.
Okay.
I just dropped her off.
Right.
I'm riding down the street in my Jag.
Mm-hmm.
I got $29,000 in my car,
In a laundry bag.
in the laundry, or in a briefcase. It don't matter. And I got some prescription pills laying on the front seat or
Mhm.
whatever, in clear view, in plain sight or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I get pulled over.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm high. I want to go to rehab. You think that's happening here in Champaign County?
If you're Jim Irsay
No.
and you have that, no, I'm
I'm
telling you.
saying me,
Right, when I'm saying
Sergeant
you,
Rock, riding down the street in his
right,
Jag.
if you're Sergeant Rock and
And I got
29,000 is all
exactly.
your life savings sitting in the front seat, the answer
And
is
that's with a
no.
loan.
But that's the problem. That's what my point I'm making to you, is that Jim Irsay, because of his status of who he is, has enough money to bail himself out.
So do I.
No, you don't.
I got $29,000.
They confiscating that as evidence.
I know it. That's the point I'm trying to.
You're not using that 29,000.
That's the point I'm trying to
Actually,
make.
when we confiscated, it was 18,000. There wasn't 29,000 that you claimed. There was only 18,000 in the car.
I got receipts.
There, you show it.
Dang.
You liar.
That's
Well,
the problem.
here's the thing, and I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces, but I don't recall anyone ever saying whether or not those prescription drugs they found were for him.
Oh, come on, man. Numerous bottles.
Well,
How many drugs you taking?
Maybe he got a foot issue, knee,
shut up, Joe.
back.
But the
hey, once again, Sam, you look at things with a suspicious eye. I'm just trying to broaden your horizons to let you see we live in a different world. This ain't the 50s, okay?
Look,
That's all
and
I'm saying.
if they were his
Fact
prescriptions,
is my opinion, and I see what I saw.
You're gonna use that to death,
Right.
ain't you? Yeah.
I'll tell them off air where I got it from.
It's like teaching a dog to shake. Now he wants to shake everybody's hand.
If they're his prescriptions, he can't be charged with it. So maybe that's why he.
They
hasn't
wasn't
been
labeled,
formally
man.
charged. I don't know.
What else I got here?
Something, I hope.
Right. Keep digging.
Shaka Smart turned down the job at Marquette.
Smart move.
Hence the name.
Yep. He's with VCU through 2023.
He's got it made there.
What's happening, he's leveraged this position at VCU properly in the fact that, usually coaches go in and be like, you better give me more money or I'm leaving. What happens every year after the tournament, when their job opens come open, whose first name that comes
Shaka
up?
Smart.
And what does he do? He just sits back and he says, I've not been contacted. I don't know anything about this. You're talking to the wrong guy, blah, 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 blah. And a week later,
Signs the extension.
he gets a pay raise. Shaka Smart is a smart man. That's why he didn't come to Illinois. That's why he's not going to Marquette. And he's not going to leave VCU. Because before you know it, he'll have a contract extension through 2075, And he'll be a rich man, and all he has to do is just keep coaching his team. So,
All right, what else I got?
what else you got?
Yeah, 76ers are on a 26 straight game losing streak. They lost 26 in a row. Bless their hearts. They suck.
Yep.
It is a combination of two things. It's a combination of the dilution of talent.
Dilution. Wow. That's another big word.
He's working on it, man.
All right. We're good.
in the NBA, we've talked about these one and dones and all these other guys come in. We sit back and we watch, 6 teams every year?
For the most part. All with the same 6 teams.
That's it.
Right.
San Antonio, their combined age is 179 years.
And a half.
And they're still contending. Why? Because they're experienced, veteran basketball players who know how to play NBA basketball. Not basketball. NBA basketball. Miami, for whether you like LeBron or not, they're always going to be there. Indiana, same thing. Vets, got some young guys, combination. 76ers, young talent, equivalent to a college basketball team.
Yep.
Trying to play NBA basketball. That's what you see.
Who's on that team?
What's the kid from Syracuse last year? Carter Williams.
Michael Carter Williams.
They used to have
Andre, what's his name? From Springfield.
Iguodala. Yeah, he's gone out to Golden State. They had Evan Turner from Ohio State. He's now with Indiana. So think about this. Evan Turner was averaging like 17, 18 points a game. You get rid of him to Indiana, he's coming off the bench at Indiana. So that's what I mean about the dilution of talent, where a guy who was the top scorer on that team is now a 6th, 7th man for somebody else in the same league. You know? And so that's why you're seeing this play out. And people, I'm the one that I keep saying, hey, if you're good enough, but the league has got to make a decision about if they keep bringing these guys in, and what happens is you see the ability of the playing going down. And then these other teams, every year they get old, but as long as you keep bringing these guys with pacifiers in their mouth in the league, this is the result. And you're going to have more of these 26-game losing streaks, not just with 76ers, but with other teams.
And the Lakers are about ready to get a lottery pick for the first time in how many years?
30.
Right, forever.
Yeah.
Dr. Bus rolling over in his grave.
They gave Kobe $28 million basically for nothing.
If it was for services rendered, then it was a good payment. But if it was for future expectation, it was a horrible investment. Is the way it depends on what perspective you look. Did they give him $28 million?
What's that money they give you when you get ready to retire or quit?
Severance pay?
Yeah. I'm thinking that's what it is.
Right. Maybe they gave him just a bump and said, "Hey, bro, we appreciate what you've done.
Pat on the back.
Here's $28 million.
Go sit down somewhere."
In the big scheme of things, does it really hurt you? And next year do the amnesty Kobe and say, we're done with you.
Yeah, they should.
Because then think about it from this standpoint, in terms of, we talk about these babies that are coming in. You got Jabari Parker, MD from. Joel MD from Kansas, the big center. Wiggins, you got McDermott. You got all kinds of guys that'll be coming into the draft in June. And then you got free agents sitting out there. The Lakers may end up with the #1 pick. And now you take a Jabari Parker and then you attract a Carmelo or a Kevin Love or a LeBron James, even though that's pretty far-fetched. But you get one of those guys to come in. That re-energizes the Lakers, instantly. And then I think the final thing is, we were talking about how bad the 76ers are, but the NBA they got to get the Celtics, the Lakers, and the Knicks back to their heyday, because those are we talk about revenue centers. That's when those teams are thriving, the league is thriving.
Take NBA back to their glory days.
Right. Because think about the small TV markets. Miami plays Indiana. You got Indianapolis and the city of Miami as your TV markets. Think about how small those are compared to whether you had the Lakers in LA and the Knicks up in New York.
Or even the Bird Magic thing.
There you go.
Everybody watched those games.
There you go. So they've got to get those 3 teams back to where they used to be.
All right. Well, we got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to leave you off with this note. Come June, It'll be Talking Sports 10th anniversary. Joe and I have been sitting here at this desk.
It feels like 10 years.
In front of these mics for
hour.
10 years. Only in front of the TV camera for about a month now. But Joe and I are going to have an anniversary. And we're looking at June 21st. Is that a Friday?
I guess.
Okay.
Is that a Friday?
If that's what you say. Is Connie going to be available?
I'm going to ask her later. June 21st, we're going to do a live taping of this program for UPTV.
He said a live taping.
That didn't make sense, did it?
You know what it was?
We're going to tape it live.
Okay, it's military
Film it
intelligence.
live.
Yeah, we're taping it live. At the American Legion Post 559.
Mm.
We're going to be down there live. We won't have an audience, a live audience.
You should probably do it on June 20th. See how it's a Friday.
Bam. Then June 20th.
So she said 20th and he said 20th.
Then 20th, June 20th, at the American Legion Post 559 from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. We're going to have a live audience.
Will there be cake?
Huh?
Will there be cake?
We'll see if we can get somebody to cater. Maybe it's Pickens Chicken. Because Pickens Chicken is kicking.
Yeah, but I just want to know if there's going to be cake.
Okay, there will be cake. Carletta's going to see the cake. Oh. She ain't going to make it, but she going to see
So there's
something.
going to be some cake there.
Anyway, we want to take this time to invite everybody out. Come on out, gather around the table. We're gonna talk sports. We're gonna field questions, and we're just gonna have a good time, Joe.
Yeah.
For us farmers, which Legion are you talking about?
Hickory. Railroad tracks. By the post office.
Yeah, by the post
Oh,
office.
okay.
Champaign. Post 559.
I don't know where that is. I'm a farmer, remember?
He lives in a barn. He gets up,
Milking cows.
milks cows. So you take your finger,
Everything there.
Full.
Okay, so keep that in mind as we get closer to it. Of course, we'll give you more details.
Can I bring my duck?
You surely can. Because we wanted this to be a big event. We really do. So come on out and celebrate with us. Anything else? Anything local, real quick?
Nothing really on the local level. Obviously,
What
kids
about
in spring.
what about this first string?
First string,
Y'all been practicing?
indoor. I'm glad you brought that up. Tomorrow, we'll be indoor for the last day. Tomorrow at Douglas. Tomorrow is also the last sign up, specifically for the 4 to 6 year olds, because the teams are already really set for the 11 to 12 and the 9 to 10 year olds.
When the season start?
The season will start on April 14th for the suited league, so just about 3 weeks. So that's why tomorrow's the last. So if you have a shorty, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, come on up to Douglas tomorrow, 11:30. We'll be up there from 11:30 to 1. Sign them up.
And this girl or boy?
Gender neutral. This is all about learning the game of baseball.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4, so you be sure and tune in again. Next week, we'll lace them up and do it again. We'd like to thank Carletta for being on the ones, well, not on the ones and twos, but she was working the board over there. She was working the camera, too.
Oh, she was doing her thing.
Yeah, Jazz had to take the day off. He's spring vacationing.
Oh. You might want to check where Condi's at. Ain't no sense in going home. Jazz got you a girl and gone.
I know it. All right. Mike.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Say goodbye, Joe.
If Condi stayed on the beach too long, what would you change your name to?
Baby.
Fried rice.
Bye.